Yo, peace was good. Happy Friday. Good night, good morning, good afternoon. Hope all is well. The topic of this video is should Method Man be mentioned in the King of New York conversation when it comes to hip hop? My answer is yes. Okay. Method Man, everybody knows who he is. He, is one of the 9 members of Wu-Tang. He put out, several albums out. I think he put out like 6 albums. Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 6 albums. Plus he put out like collaboration albums, with Redman, the Wu Massacre and things like that. And I think he's supposed to come out with an album with Havoc this year. I'm looking forward to that, man. But what inspired this video was I was watching. I'm a big fan of PSA hip hop, so shout out to Watson and 3 Letter Man. Shout out to y'all. You know what I mean? Brooklyn, stand up. You know what I mean? But they did they usually do like an artist appreciation show. Like they do like a video just specifically for that particular artist or artist, because sometimes they do groups. And they did Method Man. I think it was like sometime last month they did it. And the shit that they were talking about is like, yo, like I agree. I didn't think about it, because when you think of King of New York, you always talk about, it's either Biggie, Nas, or Jay-Z. Those are the only 3 that people always talk about. But I feel like Method Man definitely deserves to be, in that conversation too. Maybe he's not the top, but I feel like he deserves to be in that Mount Rushmore as far as King of New York. And the reason why I say that is because, obviously, like I said, he was part of the group, and he is part of the group. Wu-Tang, everybody knows who they are. Probably like the most influential group and brand in hip hop, music history, just hip hop in general. Or just one of the most influential brands in music history, just in general. And, in the 90s, what people don't understand is that Method Man was seen as like the superstar of the group. Kind of like with Busta Rhymes with These Are the New School. People always felt like, Busta was like the best member of the group. Like, he should go solo and that kind of thing. And it's just like with, Wu-Tang, they did the whole, ventures to where like every member went to different record labels so they can make their own money, but they still with the group, and that's very smart. And Method Man was the first up. I considered him to be like the guinea pig of the group, like as far as like that experimentation about doing a solo album. And I think it was a great idea, because like that Tikal album, in my opinion, that's a 5 mic classic, especially even the second album too. I know I'm gonna get a lot of disagreements with that, but I don't give a fuck. A lot of people, like to bring up his discography. His discography is very shaky and dicey. I agree to an extent, but if that's the case, you might as well say that about Biggie, because yes, Biggie, he had come out with Ready to Die and Life After Death, but then he had albums after that. He had Born Again, which was trash. It was okay. It had like a couple songs here and there, but like those were pretty much old songs that he did, but they just updated the beat with updated beats, and then that to me is whack. Same thing with duets, and even Method Man himself criticized duets, because with duets it was pretty much songs that again, like new songs of old vocals and things like that, but like the guest appearance, like people that he probably would have never collaborated with. You know what I mean? It didn't make sense. That was just a quick cash in on Puffy's end, and it didn't feel right to me. And then what people don't understand, Method Man, he was in high demand in the 90s, man. Like he was everywhere. Like people that praised Ready to Die, he was the only guest appearance on Ready to Die, and he fucking murdered Biggie in that song. The What? Yeah, I said it. He murdered Biggie in his own shit. That felt more like a Method Man song over a Biggie song. He made Biggie feel like the feature. I'm just being bro. And I don't know I'm gonna get a lot of shit for that, but I'm gonna keep it a buck. And I love Biggie, rest in peace to him. But you know, I just gotta call it for what I see it, how I see it. You know, and again with Biggie, getting back to Biggie, you know, people say praise Biggie, oh he's a king of New York, but honestly, the reason why people give him that title is because of the whole East Coast West Coast beef. And then if you take Puffy out the equation, he's dope, but then he'll be equivalent of like a Big L, if that makes sense, because it's like, because Ready to Die was supposed to be more gritty, more street oriented, but Puffy, being the dude that he is, even though he's a piece of shit, but he's a musical genius. I'll give him that. And when it comes to like vision and like marketing, I gotta give it to him. And then he was smart for putting like the commercial songs like Big Papa and Juicy and all these other, which I'm getting tired of, but they do have their place in music, so I can't be mad at that, man. And Method Man, like I said, Tikal, love that album. That's a classic album in my opinion. And what people understand is that the album was a commercial success. It actually did better than Illmatic, because I got into it with some people on Facebook, just friendly debate, and I said that it was more successful than Illmatic. And people like, what, you crazy. It's not like, it was more impactful than Illmatic, and when I meant by that, I meant that nationwide, because like I said, Method Man being, part of Wu-Tang, and then just it definitely helped him too, but then he was different from everybody else. He had he's tall, he had the scruffy beard with the half braids, with the fuzzy afro. He just had a pure look to him. It was just like that, and the ladies loved him and all that good stuff. With the dead eye, he had the fangs at the time. Like, it was dope, man. I mean, that whole album is just like phenomenal. It influenced me production wise. Like, I know some people have told me that my production, it definitely is reminiscent of Tikal. You know what I mean? So like and it's because I love that album so much. And then with Tikal 2000, again, another dope album. It was a conceptual album. The whole theme of the album was like that whole post-apocalyptic theme, because everybody was going crazy about the whole 2000. Oh, the world's about to go to end and things like that. Because Busta Rhymes did that too with his first 4 albums, and again, that was a dope concept. Nobody was really doing that, at least in the commercial stand of things. And a lot of people bitched about the abundance of skits, which I get, but at least the skits had something to do with the next song. You know what I mean? So that's what it was, and it didn't really bother me, because you hear other albums, and some of the skits are kind of like, oh, like really, dude, like really? But whatever, that's neither here or there. And then getting back to it with the whole Nas thing, people were saying about Illmatic, but again, like Illmatic, it was impactful as far as like in the Northeast, not nationwide. It wasn't until '96 when he dropped the second album. It was written as that's when everybody was like all over Nas, like, you know what I'm saying, and that's when people started bringing up like the whole King of New York. But Illmatic, like on a commercial standpoint, it was like more of an underground release, if that makes sense. Because no radio friendly songs, anything like that. But what it was written, that's when he just he got with Trackmasters. He hooked up with Steve Stout, and and then that's when, in my opinion, that's when people started recognizing Nas. But with Illmatic, yeah, it was impactful, but it was more on a regional standpoint, like with the Northeast. That's just my personal opinion. I don't think that it hit like the West Coast or the South or Midwest, but it wasn't until it was written. But with Method Man, it was just straight off the jump. You know what I mean? And again, him being in Wu-Tang definitely helped. But again, he had a distinct look, and his flow was different. He had that gritty, gravelly voice. And again, like with the production on Tikal, the first 2 albums, I mean, it fit to the T. And And then again, he was, again, he was just high demand and with features, um, and even with the projects with the Wu Tang, like Wu Tang Forever, he killed Wu Tang Forever. He was murking shit. Not to mention Blackout, with Redman, and then back in like 94, 95, they had that whole the Man of the Month thing, and Method Man and Redman, and it's just so dope, man, and like him being in movies, like he again very well rounded, and like he's done movies that everybody knows about. Like he did The Great White Hype, but he was like a performer. He was in Copland. He's in 187. If you guys seen that movie with Samuel L. Jackson when he moved to California, because he got stabbed up when he was in the East Coast. Method Man stabbed him up, and so he had to relocate to L.A. And then he had issues with the with the essays and shit like that. Very good movie. Highly recommend you guys checking that out. Played the infamous Shamik and Belly. You know what I mean? And he was in a whole bunch of movies, man. He was in The Deuce, that HBO show, like 42nd Street with the pimps and the prostitutes. He was in that. He played in one of the pimps. He was Cheese in The Wire. He was Prop Joe's, I think, nephew or some shit like that. It's been a while since I've seen The Wire, but yeah, he was in that. You know what I'm saying? So he's a decent actor. I believe he played like like some type of mortician. I didn't see that movie. I forgot the name of it, but I heard good things about it. You know what I mean? And then after like 99, that's when like his discography had gotten a little shaky. With with Tical Zero, the prequel. Again, at that time, like he was trying to chase the bag, and he even admitted like he felt like, okay, Puffy, he's a he's a marketing genius, good businessman. The shit that he did with Puffy, with Biggie, okay, I'm a star too. So let me get with get with Puffy, and let's get that situated. But then it didn't work because the album sucked. It didn't sell very well, and yeah, like 2 or 3 songs that I liked, but that was about it. And even himself, even Meth himself said, he wasn't feeling that album. He was just trying to follow the grand scheme of things, and he realized that it didn't work for him. So he himself don't like that album. But then he came out with 421 the day after, 2 years later in 06, which I thought was a dope album, very underrated. Unfortunately, it wasn't promoted at all because at the time Jay-Z was the president of Def Jam, so the album didn't get recognized. It didn't get promoted as well. So it's an album that I don't really hear too many people talk about. I think to me is an improvement compared to the prequel album, in my personal opinion. And then last but not least, Method Man with his performance. Like, if you ever guys get a chance to see him perform live, I highly recommend it. It's like one of those things that you have to see before you die. It's like one of those things. The dude could perform. He fucking does mosh pit, stage dives, and all that shit. He just brings some type of energy, just makes you want to just wow out, man. Just have a good time, man. Just drink up, smoke up, and, just dance. And, like, he's just very well-rounded, man. And he's funny, too, man. Another thing, too, that a lot of people don't talk about, him and Redman had a show called Stung on MTV. It was very short-lived. It didn't last very long. But, it was pretty much them pranking celebrities. And then that show got canceled. And then, ironically, Ashton Kutcher got punked and replaced Stung with Punked. Just saying, influential, okay? Let's just keep it a buck, okay? So, I'm just saying. And, I know some people, like to say that, Ghostface Killer has the best, his albums are better than, than Method Man. I agree. But it doesn't make Tical, the first 2 albums, a slouch, because he definitely held his own, you know what I mean? But again, with Ghostface, he didn't really get popular up until, with the Cuban Links album, yes, he did, but again, that was more on a regional stand of things. It wasn't until like Wu-Tang Forever, Supreme Clientele is when everybody started like gravitating towards Ghostface Killer. And the same thing with Raekwon. A lot of people like to bring up Raekwon only built for Cuban Links, only built for Cuban Links and Liquid Swords. But again, those are albums on a regional standpoint. But I don't. If you go elsewhere, where they're really bumping those albums, that's what you gotta ask yourself. With Method Man, he was like well-rounded. Like he was a superstar of the group. And again, a lot of those albums, I remember bumping them shits in the early 2000s. And I remember cats would tell me, yo, why you listening to that old shit? Cause I'm like, that shit is dope. But around you, those same cats are bumping those albums that I was bumping in the early 2000s. You know what I mean? Like, oh, that's the best album, blah, blah, blah. But years ago, you guys consider that old school. But mind you, it's like back in like the early 2000s. And those albums came out like 5 years prior or 6 years prior. So it's funny how that works, But, things like that, man. And Method Man, like I said, is very well-rounded. He's a dope performer. The dude could act, He's not the best actor in the world, but he definitely holds his own. He's decent. And yeah, man. Even he did a sing on the Wu Massacre album. The new album, The Saga Continues, that Mathematics did the whole production on the album. Method Man killed that shit. He killed that. He fucking killed that. That was, he definitely held his own. He definitely came back. And then, he dropped, the Meth Lab albums. I wasn't really too crazy about those. Those were like way too many features on those albums. And I don't know if that was his intent, like just trying to put people on and, that kind of thing. I don't know if that was the case with that, but I didn't really enjoy those albums. And the production was a big problem too. Yeah, man, and that's pretty much it, man. And that's why I feel like he definitely deserves to be the king of New York. At least being a part of the the conversation of being king of New York. Oh, and people want to bring up Old Dirty Bastard Return to Thirsty Chambers being better than Tical. Again, Old Dirty Bastard didn't write his lyrics. He didn't write his lyrics. And Jizzle was writing the lyrics for him. And if he did, like, from what I understand, like, when he was recording the album, he would just do one verse one bar at a time and go back. One bar again and leave. So you can't even compare. I mean, the only thing you can compare is like, is the production. But as far as like comparing Cuban Links and Tical, you can't. They're two different styles because Method Man is the dude that in the crew that, he's the party animal, but he's street at the same time. Like, he can hold his own in the streets. Raekwon is more of the street nigga, the hustler nigga, the drug dealer. You know what I mean? The nigga that have the nice car and shit like that, always have the nicest things. Ghostface is the same thing, but he's more on the pimp side of things, you know what I mean? So that's with that, man, and that's just my thoughts. I know most everybody's gonna disagree with that, but I feel like with those contributions that I mentioned, I definitely think he deserves to be in the conversation of the King of New York. Oh, and then with Jay-Z, again, people will say, oh, Reasonable Doubt. But again, Reasonable Doubt was more regional. It was a success in the Northeast. It wasn't until the third album, Volume 2, Hard Knock Life, is when people started to gravitate towards Jay-Z. Okay? Nas, It Was Written, is when people started to gravitate towards him. Biggie, with Ready to Die. But, again, to me, it was more with the East Coast beefs is what gave him that title too. And then, yeah, of course, Biggie, he could adapt to different flows and things like that. But again, would he have gotten that far without Puffy? I don't think so. Now, he'd probably still be alive too, but that's neither here or there. But that's pretty much it. Let me know what you guys think. I know I'm gonna get a lot of disagreements, and that's cool. I'm okay with that. But just keep it civil. and keep it clean and respectful. And that's all I ask. On that note, y'all enjoy the rest of your weekend. Stay safe. Don't do nothing crazy. So I can see y'all again. All right. Peace.